Hi guys, welcome back to Griffin's Gaming Guide. Today we're going to go over a review for The Last of Us Part 2. It's released on the 19th of June 2020 and it's a PS4 exclusive for those of you that didn't already know, so let's get into it. First up, let's have a little look at the gameplay aspects of it, just how it plays, how it feels. Let's just go over a couple of things with that first. So, visually, this game is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. It's what we've kind of come to expect from Naughty Dog. The sheer scale of the world, the detail in the buildings, the details inside, underneath, when you're in the subterranean parts, when you're out climbing up the side of a building, when you're roaming through the fields on your horse. Absolutely stunning. Top marks for that. But where the game seems to fall a little bit short for me is in the combat. The kind of gunplay isn't all that bad, to be honest. It's kind of, point and shoot, standard sort of fare. It's obviously a lot more taxing, a lot more difficult on the harder difficulties, especially survival mode. If you're playing it on very light or easy or medium, it's not too bad. The enemies will go down in, say, 3 to 4 decent shots, but I have noticed quite a few errors with this as well. For example, when you're going up against standard human enemies and you get a headshot on them, they don't always go down. They kind of stagger themselves a little bit and then carry on firing at you. Or if you stick around directly in their chest, they just they stagger a little bit and then they're back to shooting at you as if nothing ever happened. That loses quite a lot of the immersion in the game for me. So if you're in a gunfight against a couple of enemies, you shoot one of them directly inside the thigh with a long rifle, which is probably a 7.62 caliber round, then they can just stand there as if nothing ever happens, stand on that bad leg of theirs and carry on shooting. I think the developers should have done a lot more work to actually show the injured enemy, rather than just, oh, I've been shot, alright, well that doesn't matter, let's just crack on. But the melee combat is above all the worst I've known in a game in recent memory. It's incredibly clunky, for want of a better word. It's just kind of dodge, attack, dodge, attack. It's almost kind of a turn-based system. You can attack them maybe 3 or 4 times, then they'll attack you regardless of what it is you're doing. You then need to dodge and then go again, attack them until either they're defeated or they manage to grab hold of you, at which point you need to mash the absolute granny out the square button in order to be able to get them off you. If you're not successful, then you're dead and you have to restart the entire area again. It kind of feels unfinished, like it needs a lot more than just a little bit of polishing. But fortunately, that's where the bad bits end in The Last of Us Part 2. The story is absolutely top notch. It is fantastic. Now the game kind of does pick up fairly well from the first Last of Us. Obviously this is Part 2. There was obviously a Part 1. For those of you that haven't played Part 1, you might not really understand or relate to everything that happens in The Last of Us Part 2. If you haven't played The Last of Us, either remastered on PS4 or The Last of Us on PS3, I can't recommend it highly enough to go off and complete those games, even if you just do it on very easy, just to get a feel for the story before you jump into The Last of Us Part 2. Obviously it is a very accessible game. It does do a fairly decent job of trying to explain the backstory as you make your way through the game, but you will probably be forgiven if you jump into The Last of Us Part 2. Everything that kind of goes on and you're like, well, who are you, what's going on here, Ellie is who and Joel is, I'm assuming her dad, and you know what I mean, it could do a bit of a better job trying to tell a backstory, but the story itself in Last of Us Part 2, like I say, is absolutely top notch. I haven't seen a better story, and obviously I've worked my way through the entire game now. I haven't seen a better story in a video game apart from this one. Now, one thing that some of you might be disappointed about, some of you might be very thankful for, there's no online multiplayer or multiplayer of any kind in The Last of Us Part 2. From what I gather, obviously nothing's been confirmed yet, but from what I gather, Naughty Dog are going to be bringing out the online component as a separate entity. That might be as DLC, or it might be as a completely separate standalone kind of game that just focuses on the multiplayer aspect for The Last of Us Part 2. And for those of you that are bothered about the trophies that you can earn in Last of Us Part 2, obviously there's no achievements, it is a PS4 exclusive. You've got 26 trophies in total. You've got 1 platinum, 7 gold, 8 silver and 10 bronze. The trophy list itself is very simple, but it is very heavily focused on the collectibles throughout The Last of Us Part 2. Now, just going back to the game itself, you do end up playing as a fair few different characters as you make your way through The Last of Us Part 2 across a fair few time zones. So that in itself does a very good job of kind of giving you some relatability to what exactly happened in between the end of The Last of Us Part 1 and obviously the start of The Last of Us Part 2. And also, please be aware that this game, although it's kind of marketed as an action adventure game, it is very much a survival horror game. You need to be aware of that one. There are a lot of jump scares in the game. There's an incredible amount of gore and brutality. And the game itself doesn't pull any punches on what it's going to show you. Obviously, the first probably hour or 2 hours of the game, you'll be going up behind enemies, slitting their throats, and that is fully visual. You can pan the camera around and watch the entire thing. It's kind of very, very brutal as games go. So just bear that in mind if you have got a bit of a weak stomach. Grab yourself a bowl, you'll need one. So yeah, basically to summarise up The Last of Us Part 2, it is a fantastic game apart from the combat. Obviously, if they can do a couple of patches, polish off the combat, get that exactly where it needs to be, just so it doesn't feel so kind of clunky and turn-based and, oh, go on then, you have a go, then I'll have a go, then you have another go, and then hopefully I'll kill you. If they can fix those kind of issues that I've had throughout the game, it will be an absolute 10 out of 10. But for me, I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I was really hoping to be able to sit here and give this one a 10 out of 10. But unfortunately, with those combat mechanics, it just loses a couple of points off the mark for me. Well, obviously, this is just a game review. It's not sponsored in any way, shape or form. I didn't get a code sent to me. I did go out and buy the game myself. So obviously, you'll get my honest opinion on it. And let me know what you think down in the comments section. Maybe I'm wrong about the combat. I mean, for my personal taste, it is what it is. Maybe you guys are absolutely loving it. Whatever it is, come and shout at me down in the comments section.
I'll find you.
So then guys, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the like button. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of The Last of Us Part 2. Make sure you subscribe to Griffin's Gaming Guides. After you subscribe, please hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future content. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.